All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for our contract renewal session. So lovely to see all of you folks here. My name is Erin Kanoilani Thompson. I'm a professor and the coordinator for the Innovation Center here at Lever Community College. And I'm just going to turn it over to have our esteemed guest speakers introduce themselves. I'll start off with our Chancellor, Carlos.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome to our session and looking forward to some discussions and hopefully answering some questions should you have any.
Great. And then I'll turn over to Jim.
Yeah, hi everybody. Good to see you. Just a few brief comments and a commercial. Uh, Welcome everybody to this workshop. Thank you, Professor Thompson, for providing an opportunity for support for all that you do and hopefully a very successful participants in the application process. On behalf of Carla Hayashi, President of UHPA, Christian Fern, Executive Director, Dwight Takeno, Associate Executive Director, and Bargaining Chief Spokesperson. Congratulations on your eligibility uh, for this year's application process. This workshop will make a very positive impact on your application, so it's good to see you here. Finally, together the administration and UHPA have succeeded in negotiating 19 collective bargaining agreements. We have a mature contract which protects and ensures a fair assessment of your application. Want to thank the Chancellor for his leadership in this regard. Uh, Enjoy the Q&A, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. It's always nice to have you here at these sessions with us and partnering with us. And last but not least, we have from our Community College Human Resources Office, Clinton. Hey, Clinton.
Hi, everybody. So I'm from the CCHR office. Uh, Thank you for having me, and I'm here to help support.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to start off by just sharing a presentation with you folks. Just want to make sure that you all can see this. Can everyone see this okay? Are we all good? Okay. All right. So the first thing is if you want to follow along with the presentation on your own laptop, you can go to this shortened URL, the go.hawaii.edu, lowercase a, capital T, and lowercase r, and you'll be able to access the presentation. So when it comes to contract renewals, again, we always go back to our UPA BOR contract. We have a new contract that ranges a span from 2025 to 2029, and we're going to just kind of be sure to check out Article 10, I think, for department and division processes. You can look through it. You can either download a PDF copy, or if you log into your UPA website, then you can have a searchable PDF for that as well. Another good resource for you when it comes to contract renewals is to look at the guidelines. And what we try to do is put all of these resources. Lonnie from the Chancellor's Office is always wonderful in gathering all these resources for us. So I put it into a Google Drive that you can access at go.hawaii.edu/7KY. And basically, this will have all the information that you folks need in terms of the classification plans and some of the documents that we'll be talking about today. Another resource for you that you'll find in that Google Drive is the faculty classification plan. And this is really important to reference as it tells you what are the qualifications at each rank level. And so it's important to keep in mind, especially when you start going up for, if you get to the point that you're going up for tenure, that you should be performing at your next level rank. Or when you're going up for promotion, you should be performing and proving and providing evidence that you are performing at the next higher level rank. So the classification plan is something that will be really helpful to you as you start working on your documents. So when it comes to contract renewal deadlines, we have two types of faculty that do contract renewals. We have our probationary faculty. If you're a probationary faculty, that means that you're on a tenure track line. And so your contract renewal is due on that first Friday in November. So this year it's November 3rd. We also have faculty that are in temporary positions or temporary lines. They are called non-probationary faculty, and you get a little bit more time. So your due date is January 5th of 2026. Want to emphasize that I believe 4:30 p.m. is the deadline. That's pretty standard, but there are no exceptions. So it's really important to mark these deadlines. And I would probably even say, you know, turn it in a couple days earlier. They'll all convert to being submitted on the deadline date, but turn it in a couple days earlier, and then that way you don't even have to worry about if there's tech issues that you run in or last minute barriers that would prevent you from turning it in on time. So this is the basic contract renewal process. It starts, of course, with you turning in your application, and then it goes through our division personnel committees, our division chairs, our deans, and for contract renewals, it's delegated to our chancellor. So let's go through each of these areas. So the first is your department or division personnel committee. People who serve on this committee are normally elected from your division to serve, and these faculty are required to be tenured in order to vote on the contract renewal of another faculty. Sometimes you might have a DPC that's an ad hoc DPC. So if you're in, say, a unit that is kind of unusual, or there's not other faculty that enough faculty in your unit to evaluate you, then sometimes the campus will pull other faculty members from other departments that might have some relation to the work that you do. So sometimes there are ad hoc DPCs that are put together for counselors, like for instance, for program counselors. If you're a counselor who's not a general liberal arts counselor, but say a counselor for business or counselor for the PAT division, then your DPC might be made up of, you might have what's called a faculty personnel committee. That'll be a compilation of some people from your instructional discipline division, as well as people from student services and counseling. The next group or the next level of review is your department or division chair, and they do make a separate and independent assessment and recommendation separate from the division personnel committee. From there, it'll go to your dean, your upline dean for review, and again, they too also make an independent assessment and recommendation of your document. The last point is it ends up with our chancellor, Carlos Peñalosa, who has delegated authority on our contract renewals. And the chancellor does notify probationary faculty of their status by January 30th. And then the chancellor will notify the non-probationary faculty by March 31st. So he's reading a lot of documents because he's looking at the probationary faculty from November. It goes through that whole process, and it goes to him by January, and then he'll be notifying people by that January 30th deadline. And then for those who are submitting in early January, he'll notify them by March 31st. So you don't really have too much of a wait time. The contract renewal timeline, which is also located in our shared Google Drive, has a nice layout of who is looking at your document and at what point in time. Main thing is just knowing your due dates. So this is the timeline for probationary faculty for this upcoming year. So again, just really emphasizing if you're probationary faculty, if you're in a tenure track position, November 3rd is your magic date. And then January 30th will be your notification date. If you're non-probationary faculty, your due date is January 5th, 2026, and your notification date of the status of your contract renewal will be by March 31st, 2026. Okay? So in general, your dossier content, again, you're going to want to refer to the community college's contract renewal guidelines, the faculty classification plan. You want to meet the criteria of the level that you're applying for, and you want to make an effective case. The burden of proof is on you. So you want to make sure that you're tying your write-up to what's expected of you in your primary duties, and then also the various areas like professional development, what are your perception of students, what is the service that you're showing to the campus. And again, at the contract renewal level, it's really important that you're showing service to your unit, to your division, to your campus, because that's what they're looking at that point. And again, and Carlos will talk more about his tips because he sees every single document, so he has really good insights in terms of what's expected and what will help you have a very successful document, like, for instance, focusing on your primary duties and balancing it out with your other duties. Okay? So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Carlos, who's going to continue on with his tips for you in preparing the dossier.
All right. Thank you, Erin. So you are moving the slides for me, is that
I'll
what
move the
I'm?
slides for you. Yeah.
So just, I'll finish up the remaining slides and then I'll go through a very informal, but probably the meatiest part of what I can share with you all.
Hmm.
Is this the next slide? I
Yes,
can't
the
remember.
preparing the dossier.
Okay. So I want everyone to reflect on this. I think that we are a very humble community, and you can't really be humble in the development of your dossier. Your document needs to stand on its own. The reviewers may or may not know what you've accomplished, and they're only really using what you submit in the dossier. It should be a good reflection of yourself. You want to include pertinent information that address what Aaron just shared about the faculty classification plan and what you're applying for. Um, it is important that you not only include the pertinent documents, but that you also reflect on why you're including them. Don't have the reviewer guess why you're submitting certain documents. That's really critical. I see that mistake made often where you'll create a table of, say, he's going to call them professional development activities and link them to certificates, but not indicate how, you're changing what you're doing based on what you've learned or reflecting on any of those engagements or activities. And so that's really important. Tied to that, it has to be very clear to the reviewer what you're linking documents to. And so you have, items in the appendix. These have to be reflected in the narrative, and you need to articulate why you're including them. I often find a lot of documents on the appendix that are not linked to anything. So I really don't know what you're attributing, what you're attaching. And the reviewers have that same challenge. The next one is some folks feel the need to include everything. And it's great to have a lot, but it's more important to have what you need to address what you're trying to tell the reviewer. If you're trying to indicate that you have committed to the college's mission and you have some evidence for that or letters of support, that makes sense, especially if you articulate it that way. But don't just add jargon for volume's sake. Next slide, Aaron. Provide evidence of your performance, accomplishments, and endeavors. Um, know your DPC and what your peers are expecting. Um, Oftentimes we will include our student surveys by way of them evaluating our class. And some faculty may opt to not include enough or not include any or not reflect or redact. And your DPCs have expectations. They're your peers and they're the ones that are doing that initial round of evaluation. So you should include what's expected of the DPCs. Every DPC has their own guidelines. They indicate what you should include, and you should be having conversations with either your unit head or your division chair to help guide what you are including. I will tell you that one of the primary pieces of feedback that is provided to applicants is that you may include the surveys, but you have absolutely no reflection. And so, if you're on a scale of 1 to 5 and you're a 4.7 and that seems great to you, you still can reflect on that. There's always opportunity for improvement. Um, if you include your student evaluations and some of the commentary indicates something about maybe how you are communicating with them or how you're delivering the instruction, don't ignore it. I'm not saying respond to every comment, but don't not respond to the feedback that you're getting. Um, and so I cannot believe, and typically peer reviewers cannot believe that everyone's job is cherry and you've never encountered a problem. I mean, that's just not realistic. You want to reflect on that. We are not perfect, and it's a continuous improvement model. And so, therefore, if something didn't go well, reflect on it. It's best to reflect on it as a means of improvement than to ignore it and get caught on it. And so that is important for you in the development of your dossier. Having what you celebrate and how you articulate that you're meeting everything in the faculty classification plan, but then also looking at what your future may look like based on feedback or experiences that you had along the way. Next one, Aaron. Okay. Whew, presentation and formatting. We get a lot of feedback here. Some of you may have been around before the pandemic when we used to submit a lot in paper form. Um, in the digital space, the formatting is very important. It is very difficult for a reviewer to have to, reset their reading because your linking is sending them to some other document or page that doesn't take them back and forth as they are reading. And so work through on the formatting of the document. I will say it is important for you to feel confident in what you're writing, but it's also important to get feedback from others because we often think that we're clear communicators. And there may be opportunities for improvement. You want a peer or a friend to tell you that and not the outcome of your contract renewal. And so don't assume that your message is getting across. Absolutely check grammar, spelling, and syntax. Um, we are faculty. We are sticklers. We learn using red pens. Your peers will evaluate you that way. And so you don't want to get stuck on simple things that could have been addressed. Paginate. Most of these contract renewals are too lengthy to go through in one sitting. It helps the reviewer as we're going from document to document and section to section to go back and forth and check that all required sections are included and clearly identified. The formatting will vary depending on your ability to create complex documents. Linking external sources can be problematic. Linking documents can be a little bit problematic. The formatting of how we put it all in our digital system is such that anyone that has access to the document can review all of the the links that you provide. What will happen from time to time is that access to a certain document is not provided to the reviewer, and at that point, they will have to ask for that permission to happen, and it gets a little bit, I'm gonna call it, it's a little bit annoying to the reviewer to have to pause their review because a link doesn't have the right permissions for you. Um, Next. Okay. I've been mentioning this along the ways. This is really critical. You may not know this, but I know it and I know it well. From DPC to DPC, the expectations will look very different. I can tell you, for example, if you are in arts and humanities and you are in an art as a discipline, oftentimes you have attachments and appendices that are lengthy or they're drawings, they're works from your students. And that may not be the case in other divisions. That's just not something that happens there. If you are in language arts, our English faculty like to write, pretty lengthy reflections. And then if you're in the sciences, you just go right to the point. And so know what your peers are expecting. For the sake of your contract renewals, it is going to be folks from your division. And so you don't want to necessarily be an art faculty asking a math faculty to guide you because the expectations are going to be a little bit different. Um, you know, we are trying to provide as much resource to you. We are looking at ways to have AI help us a little bit because as a new faculty member, you may not have the Rolodex of colleagues to go to. And by the way, some divisions are very small, and so your friend may also be in your DPC. And so there are those sensitivities. It's important for you to get a good sense of what your DPC is asking for. If you don't have the guidelines, you should ask your chair for the DPC guidelines, review it well, and if you have questions, go to your chair, go to a colleague in that division and discipline to help demystify some of this. And so, Erin's area is trying to provide additional resources, but this type of workshop is really critical because you're going to get from me, in addition to these couple of bullets on these slides, a lot of do's and don'ts that will hopefully make you more successful in this process. And so you're going to have resources available to you. Hopefully, you already have access to this deck. So I'm going to ask Erin to remove the deck from
Mhm.
sharing so that I could see faces.
Yep.
Uh, and I'm going to go over just a couple of things that are going to be a little bit of reinforcement to what we've been discussing so far, but then also open it up to questions that you may have. And I just have to go to my notes here for a second. This is the challenge of being on a single screen right now that I either look at my note or I look at you, and I want to do both. So give me one second. Okay, that's much better. Okay, as I mentioned before, I know that you do amazing work. Your colleagues know that you do amazing work. If it isn't in the contract renewal, it does not count. The document has to stand on its own. I cannot defend you if the document is poorly written or if you did not reflect enough or add enough to justify that contract renewal. A couple of other hiccups that our faculty have at times is you don't necessarily reflect on your student. Know who your student is. This is especially important for our instructional faculty, but for our non-instructional faculty, we still have students. I may be your student. Reflect on who your student is because we are unique. Leeward Community College is amazing and we are the best. And so reflect on who we are. Reflect on our mission, reflect on our strategic plan, reflect on who we serve, the communities we serve, because that's what makes us unique and why you were hired, right? Demonstrate engagement. And so I know all of you in some way or form. It's not enough. I can't use my memory. If you've been participating in college events and if you've been volunteering, if you're gonna come and dance with us on Saturday at the Bond Dance, you want to reflect that you've been engaged with the campus community and you want to document it. That's important. Um, the difference between you getting through a contract renewal process and maybe a lecturer or someone else that's not as affiliated with the institution is that you're expected to be part of my community more aggressively. And so I expect you to reflect on that and document it. Reflect on experiences. I mentioned this before. If you're getting students, feedback from students or peers, for example, don't just ignore it. Summarize it. Tell us what you're getting as trends. Tell us what you're seeing as opportunities for change. Um, the same thing with professional development. If you come to one of my sessions or anything, if you went to convocation and you learned something new, reflect on it. Not just say I went. Um, Reflect on what you learned and what you appreciate or what could change. The reflection is really important. Service to the college and the community is important. Don't just simply say, well, I cleaned up a LOE. Well, okay, and how is that a reflection of who we are as an institution and who you are as a faculty member at Leeward? Um, you don't have to do it for everything, but do it enough for your reviewing team to reflect on that. Consider the evolution of our work. You're hired as a faculty member, you're a subject matter expert, and the expectation is that you continue to educate and professionally develop yourself so that we remain relevant. Maybe the methodologies for instruction a couple of years ago have changed based on who our student profile is. You should reflect on that. You should reflect on maybe what your needs may look like. Over the next year or two, I would like to learn more about AI and how I can incorporate it to make my classes more engaging for students, or how I'm going to support the chancellor's office at making that office be more effective, right? Those are all important things that you need to include. Um, and just to go back and reflect a little bit more on the faculty classification plan, um, the structure of contract renewals should be a reflection of the faculty classification plan. It's not an essay and it isn't a book report that you get to generate. You don't want the reviewer to second guess whether you're addressing the faculty classification plan. So you should use the classification plan as a backbone to how you structure the entire document. Now, I will say this much. I review every single submission because I have final decision making authority. And so, therefore, be kind to me. Don't submit very lengthy documents. Make them as clear, concise as possible while still remaining true to what your DPC expects of your applications. Um, your peers, like I said before, and myself included at times, were sticklers. When you review a document and within the first sentence you have a typo, it throws the reviewer off. And so spend the time to make sure that that doesn't happen. Um, and the same with just general structure and links. We are here to support you. This is not a one person effort. You have peers here that can help you. You have offices like ours that can help you. Don't wait for last minute. I will not extend, I cannot extend deadlines, and technology fails us. And so if you're waiting for that final hour and on that final hour, Wi-Fi goes out, I'm sorry, there will be no extension. And so work accordingly to submit on time and ask questions along the way and get folks to review it on time. Um, don't also put the burden on some of your friends to review your document at the final hour. I think that iterative processes, giving yourself time to evaluate, are really important. And by the way, you were hired to Leeward, and so you meet our MQs and you meet our philosophies, and we believe and trust in you. Um, this process is not evaluating that. This process is evaluating your growth and your ability to craft about yourself in this contract renewal. And so with that, I'll pause because I could be very redundant at times. But I'm happy to answer questions that you may have so far of me.
Oh, I have a small question. I was taking a look at some of the samples that were uploaded, and I noticed a couple samples were like citing outside sources. Was that advisable or not advisable?
So you have to be a little bit careful. We typically want the document to be self-sufficient and that all links or documents that you're trying to refer to are in the Google Drive where this is gonna live, because external links can go down and then you get yourself into an interesting pickle where, a reviewer is gonna say that you didn't take the time to make sure that all the links worked. For that reason, I wouldn't advise it. You can probably do like a print screen of a link. It depends on what you're trying to share. But I would not advise external links if possible.
Hmm, thank you.
I would say though, Amanda, I have seen in documents people will cite, especially like when they're talking about their teaching philosophy, they might cite like psychological concepts or theories, and they'll just cite where they get that from. But not so much like Carlos was saying, like you don't want like those external links, but citations, you might be putting those in if it supports um, I've seen it mostly in the philosophy. Maybe sometimes maybe yeah, Carlos, sometimes in student perceptions,
That's
but
right.
mostly in philosophy, I think. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And Christine just put a question. And so yes, actually, if this is not your first go round, you have to demonstrate how you've progressively taken on more responsibility, and this is in alignment with the faculty classification, right? And so you have to demonstrate growth. You have to demonstrate that you've sustained at times, and so if once upon a time you did something that demonstrated leadership, the big mistake is to not continue demonstrating leadership. And the other thing, I should have reflected on this. The faculty classification plan addresses certain areas like leadership as an example, and leadership is absolutely everywhere. And so it's not necessarily tied to a title. It's tied to a function. If you are helping curate a new course, if you are assessing and adjusting SLOs, and you're working with other faculty members in your discipline, that is absolutely leadership. And so you get to help define what that leadership means. So no, banner will not, unless you're trying. No, 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 no. Banner will not affect this process. I'm trying to think where it may. Very disconnected systems. But if you are trying to pull information from the, I don't, I no, I can't think of it. On how banner would impact your ability to submit.
I'd probably say just because the banner updates in December, Carlos, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so if you want to maybe just pull your student data by November, if you're doing a January submission, from IRO. Does IRO pull data from Banner? No, I'm not sure.
They,
But
they IRO does pull data from Banner, but a lot of that data that you'll probably use, it already lives in our data
right.
warehouse, not in Banner. Yeah.
Yeah, good question.
Hmm.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Jim or Clinton, do you folks have anything, any tips or anything that you'd like to share with the group? Okay,
Well,
great.
seems okay. It seems like we're coming to a close here. I will say again, it could feel daunting, y'all, but you're not alone. It's not rocket science, but don't be humble. Definitely show off. And I will tell you that I value everything that you put in there because oftentimes I don't know everything that you do. And then I could talk about it and I could celebrate it and I could support everyone based on the work that you all collectively do. And I think Jim unmuted yourself, so I'll stop.
Well, thank you, Chancellor. I think that you hit upon all the key points, and I would just encourage participants to take time to read the classification plan. You all are familiar with the title and the first paragraph, but go through the document. It makes a difference, including the guidelines and the Google shared drive. Thank you.
Hmm. Great. Clinton, is there anything else? No. Okay.
No,
Aaron, just
thank
one.
you.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Were you going to share something, Clinton?
no.
Okay.
I was just going to reflect very, very quickly on, I have heard from our faculty that in the formatting of the documents in the online system, it could feel a little bit tricky and at times daunting. So you may want to start toying with, I think that we all know how to use Google Docs. I'm not a master user of it. I'm ashamed to say it. But on how to most effectively link documents and save them and have the right access to the documents, you don't want to have to toy with that at the final hour. That is not where you want to spend your time. So definitely look into that early.
Hmm. Yeah. I think the last thing I'll kind of share is that we do run what's called an AO Teaching Excellence Program for our new faculty. It's already being run, but we'll be having a session where people will be some of our seasoned faculty. One of them who's on our call right now, Calais Ruiz, who creates a lot of resources on contract renewals, will be presenting. And so I think I may open that up, not just to our AO participants, but to anyone who's interested in coming. So that will be on, I think it's September 19th, I believe. I think it's next week, Friday. So I'll just make sure it's okay with our AO cohort members, but we may open that up on Zoom. There's just so much. There's so many nuances when it comes to contract renewals and writing dossiers that the more people you talk to, sometimes it can get confusing if you're getting different words of advice from different people, but that's part of the process. It's a subjective process in a way. So the main thing is know who you are, know what you're contributing, be very clear on the guidelines and on the classification plan and what's expected of you, and write from the heart and write about what you do for our students and for our college, and you'll be okay. And talk to people, look at samples, but ultimately this is your document, this is your representation, so stay true to that. Okay, and we'll definitely have more, the more you can talk to people or attend workshops, the better it'll be in creating your own documents. Yeah. All right.
I forgot a really critical one. Should your DPC or your dean or your chair or Carlos ask you for additional information, do not get offended and do not become defensive. It's just part of the process. We're trying to make sure that we make the right decision. Just that's just it happens.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Carlos. They want to help. And so if they're saying, hey, we want more information, it's so that they can, they can do a positive action with it by getting more information. So yeah, that's a good one, Carlos. Good. Anything else, Carlos? Y'all good? Any last questions? Everyone good? Thumbs up if you're good. All right. So we're here for you. Good luck, everybody. Thank you for attending today. We'll have a recording available for you as well, and come and talk to us anytime. Okay? Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Clinton. Mahalo, Carlos. Take care, everybody. Uhui ho.